So of course, as you can see, the lighting is all way off right now. So now it's just time to do some proper lighting. So I'm going to start fresh by deleting our light source. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that. We have our sky sphere over here, so we will need to re-reference our light, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So yeah, over here we have like our sky. So let's see. So our light folder is empty. We have our light blockers. We don't need our volume for now. Let's just get rid of our volume. And these are our windows. So let's make another folder. Let's select all of this. So let's select all of our pieces and now make a folder and call this folder assets. There we go, and that makes it easy to just hide those. So let's go into probably lights. And the first thing I want to do is I want to add something called what was it called? Reflection probe or sphere reflection shape. So basically this one, the sphere reflection shape. And what this shape does is it will calculate accurate reflections, which we really need with our gold. So as you can see, our gold, as soon as we added that, receives some better reflections right now. And we just need to add these just to get a little bit more accurate reflections. Now, this is quite a big sphere, as you can see with the yellow part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that a bit smaller. And I want to place 2 in the room. So by placing 2, it will give me a little bit more accurate reflections based upon the distance. So I'm just going to set this to probably like 800. And I do want to make sure that it just captures the entire room up and down like this. And then we will also have another 2 in the hallway. So let's have 1 here, duplicate, and they can overlap. So we have another one here. And now I just want to grab this one, duplicate that one and place it on over here. And just set this size to be like 600. And let's see how far, let's make it smaller, 400. There we go, let's do 400. And by the way, I can for now just turn off my light blockers. And I would just want to be able to cover the entire hallway. So let's place 3 of those in here. There we go, and we just need to make sure that the entire room is covered. So now if we turn on our light blockers again, that's the first part. So let's actually select these spheres and throw them into the lights. Okay, so yeah, these spheres we will later on use for all of our reflections. Now, the next thing I would say is to start by just getting a basic light in. And for this, I would just want to drag in a clean directional light over here. So the directional light is a little bit the same as like the sun. And it's also the same as when we were in Marmoset, where we had like a directional light. So it will just give on the entire scene from one direction some lighting. So if we throw this in, and what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and rotate this. And let's bring in some sunlight. So I want to do something like this so that you can see that it has like the windows, it shows like the windows. I'm just going to turn off the snapping for rotation. And yes, right now it's quite low resolution, but we will later on change some settings. So for now, let's just have a look at our reference actually. So that you can see. So I want to capture some of this volumetric light and just have some really sharp sun going out. Also like over here. So we do want to have like, well, I'm not sure. We can go for sharp because over here we can see sharp, or we can make it all bleed out a little bit. So we'll have a look, but let's have a look at this scene. So yeah, as you can see, it's quite sharp. So we just want to see if we can capture that. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit more and maybe just like rotate it that it's as if that the sun comes from the side, a little bit like this. There we go. And then what we can do is here we have a few settings. Now let's first drag this light into our lights folder. And here we have the intensity. So I first of all want to just go into the light color, and I want to give this like a little bit more of like an orange color. So I'm going to first of all drag this into like a really strong orange. And then we can just like this lower or higher our scene. So something like this looks quite alright. R1, G 0.907 and B 0.68. So you can just take over these settings if you want. And let's just press OK. Now we have the intensity, and by the way, the reason that the light shadows are this low is because I forgot that we need to change some of our shadow maps. So let's set the intensity to, let's say 15 to make it a little bit stronger. And now one thing that we need to do before we move on with this, because else I forget, is we just want to increase all our shadow maps. Now there are two ways that we can do it. So with the shadow maps we will later on bake lighting, and for that we have, for example, here our shadows. So if you go down in your model to general settings, here you have your light map resolution, and if you higher your light map resolution, it will automatically also give you higher res shadows and everything. Now we could go in here and for every single model and like change it around a bit, which I would recommend if you need to make a very optimized scene, to only give it the resolution it needs. So a floor might need a resolution of 512, but these pieces might still just need a resolution of 1:8, for example, because they are not as important to receive shadows. Another thing that you can do is you can go into world settings, and for our case we will probably do this. And in world settings, which by the way, if you don't have it, just go to settings here, and here you have world settings. We should be able to just go into our light mass settings over here. Or was it not? I thought it was world settings. I don't use this option too often because, of course, normally I make things a little bit more optimized. Let's see in here. Where are you? Maybe it was in project settings. Let's just open up project settings. And then go down into rendering. And that looks about alright. So reflection capture resolution, by the way, let's set that to 256. Those are those reflection spheres that we added. And for the rest, it should be around here somewhere. Where are you? Let's just close this. So, oh wait, so yeah, over here, but this is the backlight and shading. So here you can set the maximum size of like how your light maps are packed, which are now in 1024 maps. So I might have been mistaken by that, although I swear there was a setting. Anyway, normally I can remember that there is a setting that we can just change all of our light maps at the same time. In this case, because I cannot find it, I will simply just go into this model, into all our models, and very quickly in here set our light map resolution. It's the exact same thing. I was hoping that I could use a faster way, but okay. So for the floor, because I'm going to set all of this, by the way, a little bit higher. This is just because it's a portfolio piece, so I can handle the extra resolution. So I'm going to set the light map resolution for the floor to 512 and press save. The internal and all the door pieces and frame pieces I'm going to set to 256. So let's just save that for all of them. And I will do this quickly. I will just open it, scroll down, type in 256 and save. 256 should be enough. You can go crazy if you want, but when it's a portfolio piece, but of course the bigger you make them, the longer it takes to bake lighting. So let's set this light map resolution to 512 because it's quite a complex model. These pieces can go back to 256, and here we have, don't forget our ceiling trims, 256, another one, 256, ceiling piece, I will go for 512 again, just because it's quite a big plane. Our ceiling panel, 256 should be fine. Our carpet, I will go also to 512 because it's also getting quite a big piece. And our cabinets, 256 should be fine for those two because they're not that special. And let's also just do our bed. And for our bed, I'm gonna go to 512. And did we do our curtains? I don't think we did our curtains. Let's set our curtains also to 256. And there we go. So that's it. So that has increased that resolution. Of course, it will still look low here, but that's because we have not yet baked our maps. So before we do that, let's go into world settings. And in here, I just want to use ambient occlusion, just to bake some ambient occlusion inside our meshes. So that's one thing that I would just want to capture. So yeah, you know what ambient occlusion is. It will then just try to bake ambient occlusion on all of our scenes. Now, having that done, let's just go ahead and go back to our directional light. So what I want to do here is, although you cannot see it in here, I do want to try and get like some volumetric light, something that you can see here, and just have like some volumetric light shining through. So to do that, what we want to do is to drag in a fog volume. So that one is probably in volumes over here, and it is called a, where are you? Volumetric, what was it called? Oh no, exponential fog. Visual effects, sorry, it's a visual effects. And it's called exponential height fog over here. And, oops, I pressed F2 again. This one is just all over the world, so you don't need to like adjust anything. And having this one in here to start with, now we should be able to just go to our light and go down. And here we want to have our, where are you? Let's drag down. So, where are you? Can't find the setting. I know which setting it is when I actually see it. Or actually, you know what? It might just be in the fog volume. Oh yeah, here it is. So here, just type in volumetric fog. And then what you want to do is, well, so it's very soft right now, so we will need to boost that later on in the light. So first, let's just give this like quite a nice deep yellow orangey look, something like this. And for the rest, with these pieces, I think for now we will need to leave it, because we first need to actually make it visible, which we can do in our directional light. So there is a setting here, which is called, probably, I think it was this one, volumetric scattering intensity. Yeah, that is the one, although it's really hard to see. Let's just set that to 4, and let's go back to our, oh wait, hey, if we increase the resolution, we can definitely see it. Or resolution. If we increase the intensities, let's set this to 20. No, let's set this to 50. And we will later on also in the fog volume. Let's set this to 60. It's probably way too intense, but for now I just want to see if I can get this. So here we have our fog density, which we can increase, and that will like kind of show that up. So as you can see here, they are in here. We might be able to boost them a bit more. Let's try the scattering. So the scattering, I think we want to just say it to 0.1. Just to, like, it will show like those rays that you can slightly see. And for the rest, we also have an emissive, which we should be able to like boost up, but I don't think in this case we will need it. Let's try the extinction scale. If we boost that up, that will definitely increase it. So let's set it to 2 to start with, or 1.5. Let's do. Oh wait, sorry, I'm editing the wrong one. What did I say for this one? 0.1? Yes. And then this one was 1.5. There we go. Or 1. Let's start with 1. Okay, and now, of course, as you can see, the light doesn't really bounce around. This is because we have not yet baked any light maps. So by this point, we have our fog volume. So that looks about alright. I think it's best if we now just quickly bake our lighting. But let's first save our scene. And once we've baked our lighting, we can kind of see where to go from there. So you need to bake the lighting quite often. Now, in here you have your build tab. If you click on the arrow down, Here in the light quality, it's set to preview. I like to just set it to medium because it doesn't take that long to bake. And for the rest, you can build your reflection captures, but if you just press build lighting only, it will also build those reflection captures. So I'm just going to click that, and that will actually give quite an impact on your computer, so it will slow things down quite a bit. But let's just give it a second. I will actually pause the video because it won't be super slow. It will often just ramp up quite quickly, but for now I'll pause the video. Okay, so here we see our lighting as it is now. As you can see, it is very dark. We have some quite strong lighting problems here, which I forgot about. I know how to fix it, and it is simply by only using one plane instead of multiple planes. Because those lighting seams, it's a really unfortunate thing that we just tend to have that are really hard to get rid of if we use modular pieces. In our case, the way that we got rid of them is by using pillars. So behind these pillars would be seams normally. Here you can see them a little bit. So that's how we solve that. We have some quite strong light bleeding here, which means that over here something is not going completely white with our cubes. We might just want to make our cubes black. And going in here, there it's just pitch black. So there are a bunch of reasons for this. It's mostly because we don't have enough light bouncing around from our sun to all the other places. So there are multiple ways that we can fix this. And a lot of the lighting is just playing around mainly. Now, one thing I want to do is I just want to drag in a skylight. The reason for this is a skylight is like an overall lighting that you will get. So it's just a very soft lighting that you will see everywhere. Also, the nice thing about these windows now is that you can see that outside is just nice and bright. So we don't need to have a special outside look. So for this skylight, it is a bit intense right now. So I'm just going to set the intensity over here to probably 0.1. Let's set it a bit higher, 0.2-ish. And as you can see, that brings the light out a little bit. And there's also some other things we want to do. Let's do 0.15. And another thing that we will later on do is, as you can see over here, all of a sudden the scene becomes brighter and darker again. Now, this is good for in games, because in games you often go from indoor to outdoor, and then this will give the effect that your eyes are adjusting to the light. In our case, we don't want it because it gives us less control. So it's another thing that we need to fix. And we also need to fix a bunch of our materials, but we will get to that. First, I want to just keep going with this lighting. So for this lighting, what I'm going to do is for our top pieces, I think the best way for us to do this is, let's just have a look at our materials. So our plaster does not use any instances, does it? No, it does not for tiling at least. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and delete all these pieces, all our ceiling pieces except for one, and I'm just going to turn off the light blockers also. So these ones are fine because they are like panels, so they work a bit better. Although I don't know why we have this one tiny. Oh wait, of course this is because these are still separate. So basically what I want to do is, we have this panel over here. I'm just going to have this all over the environment. So I'm just going to scale this up way big, like this. There we go. So now it is immediately on all of our environments. Now, one thing I was worried about is that, so let's just ignore that. As I figured, our ceiling over here is a bit higher than the rest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two panels in this case. So that just means for this one that we need to quite accurately place it here in the center so that it's not clipping. And scale this out like this. And then I just want to do another one. And I'm going to keep it the same scale. This is because of the tiling. So to keep the tiling the same. And for this one, I'm going to also have it like here in the center, so that it's in between this dead zone where we have nothing. And I just want to move this one up a little bit. And now what I can do with this is if I just set this to unlit over here. So this plaster, it is now tiled quite big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my plaster material over here. And I'm just going to have a texture coordinate. And what I want to do is I want to also have a scalar parameter, which I call tiling. Let's do tiling H and tiling V, just to make things easier. Tiling V. And now with these, what I want to do, and then we need a multiply and something called a append vector over here. And we just want to have the H and V tiling in here. And by the way, set these default values to 1, don't forget that. And drag that into the multiply into B and our texture coordinate into A to tell it that it's a texture coordinate. And then just plug this into the UVs, and this will give us a scalar parameter control to tile all our textures. So now if we press save and give it a second, and now if we right click and create a material instance for a plaster, drag it on here and also drag it on to this one. And now let's have a look. So if we now have a look from a distance, open this up and give our tiling like this, you can see that it gives us quite a good tiling. So let's set the tiling from 2 by 3. Let's do 4 by 5. Or do we need to do 4 by 3? 4 by 3 actually. So actually let's do 5 by 4. There we go. So that will give us a lot more tiling to work with. And that should fix that tiling problem. For the rest, yes, it's editing materials, but we also want to do some more bounce. But our Skylight should take care of that over here. And else what we can also do is later on we can just work with the environmental intensity, which basically is how intense the overall light outside is. So for now, let's just do this. So let's just save all. And I'm going to bake our scene in the next chapter. I will show you that result, and then we will just keep building upon this. Okay, so this is what it looks like after the bake, which not much has changed. So what we are going to do is, in our Skylight, we are just going to set the intensity a bit higher. So let's set the intensity to 0.7. Yeah, let's do 0.7. Also, over here, like the fog on the ceiling, especially over here, you can see it's very strong. So we might just want to see if we can tone that down a little bit in here. So let's try with our view distance. Does that work? It does work, but I just want to give like another, just look for something else. So what was this? 0.1, right? Yes, we set this to 0.1. Static light scattering. Static light scattering seems to do the trick. A little bit, not completely. So let's set that to 0.1 just to give it some value. And the extinction scale is, yeah, so that's over here. So we can tone it down maybe to like 0.7. And for the rest, it's a bit strange that it still shows some of the fog in here, but that might just be because of our image effects, which we will also change. So having a look at this, I think we can just do one quick bake. Yes, so let's just do one quick bake and then we will change our post effects and they will kind of like balance everything out. So I'm just going to very quickly build lighting only. Okay, so that's done. Here we go. So yeah, it still only gives, it still is quite strong, but now we will do something that will like kind of balance this out. So what we are going to use is a post effect volume, and this is for all of, we are going to use this for everything from color balancing to just balancing the lighting a little bit, and it's basically it's post effects. It's like camera effects, basically. So in our lights, let's go ahead into our visual effects. And in here we have a post-process volume. So let's drag that in here. And we just need to make this big. So it can just cover the entire level. So if we scroll all the way down here we have our brush settings. So let's set this to 5000 by 5000 by 5000. And all it needs to have is it needs to make sure that the camera is inside of here, which it definitely is now. And having that done, what will happen is we can just change a whole lot of settings in here, and they will translate in here. They will translate wherever we have our camera. So if I press G is game view, and it will just hide everything, or like hide all our icons and everything. And then the first thing I want to do is I want to lock our brightness, because over here, as you can see, it's a bit hard getting the right brightness. So let's go down, and we need to go down to, where are you? No, there's a lot of stuff here. I just need to find it. So let's just, let's get back exposure. No. Oh, come on, where are you? It should be in here somewhere. I'm just trying to actually find the damn thing. Global animation, no. Ah, come on, why can't I find it? It's like the most obvious one. 1 second, guys, sorry about this. I just need to open it all up because it is hiding somewhere. Where are you? I know what it is when I see it. Because I just forgot the exact name for it. Oh wait, it is an exposure. Here we have the minimum brightness and maximum brightness. Wow. Okay. Anyway, so what we want to do is we want to make these numbers the same to kind of like lock it. So I'm going to start with 1 by 1, for example, and then you can see, okay, that's dark. Let's do 0.5 by 0.5, getting brighter. 0.2 by 0.2. Okay, so that's getting quite bright. But now you can see that it will like lock in here. And of course in here we need to fake the lighting a little bit, because of course in here it's we cannot properly see it. But something like this is starting to look quite nice. So I'm going to go 0.25 by 0.25. Let's do that so that it's a little bit darker. And now what we are going to do is a few things. First of all, I think we just want to close everything and we just go setting by setting. So the depth of field we don't really need. What the depth of field is that it will on a distance make things blurry basically, which is good for props. So it's like if I set the focal distance higher and let me just say, not the focal region, the scale, set the scale up, you get stuff like this. And then if you then change the focal distance, you can like change the depth of field and everything. So just so you know, the bloom is something we want to change. So let's go to the intensity and threshold. And basically with the bloom, we can blow out our sunlight and our glare quite a bit more, which could look quite nice. So we are gonna go for 1.5, looks quite alright. Just to have like a little bit of a nice bloom in there. Wow, our gold is really shiny. We will later on change that stuff also. So that's our bloom. So our exposure we already changed. Our chromatic aberration, what this will do is it will give you the lens effect, that if you higher it, that you get like the little distortion from the lens, the RGB distortion. So I want to just turn it off. Dirt mask is if you want to have like dirt on your camera, which we don't need. In our camera here, if you want to have like some more camera settings like the ISO, you can change it, but for that we need different settings in our actual camera, so we can just ignore that. Lens flares, we also don't need. It's remember when you look at the sun, you often see like a flare, but we don't need it anyway. Image effects, this could be quite nice. So the vignetting intensity, will give you like the black borders around your image. So I want to just give those a little bit. So I'm going to go for 0.5 just to give like a little bit of like a black border, as if there is some vignetting from our camera. And here we have the grain jitter and the grain intensity, and that will give you like this nice grainy look. So for that, it might be cool to make this feel a little bit more older, to just have like a little bit of grain and also give like a little bit of a cinematic feel. So I'm gonna go for 0.05 on something like that. Is that correct? Maybe 0.1. Let's do 0.07. Let's do that. Okay. Color grading. For now we are just going to ignore it because we first need to have some proper lighting. And then we will make something called a color grading lookup table. Or LUT. And with that we can literally go into Photoshop, do all of our color grading, and then just come back and translate that into our to be on our camera. For the rest, over here we have film, which is quite nice. Or is it? Do you want to use film? Yes, let's do that. So with this we can also like easily change the dark areas and everything. So we have, for example, a black clip that we can make all of our black areas darker, and a white clip where we can make all of our white areas whiter. The shoulder, I'm not really sure what that one does. The shoulder and toe, they are like tones, so we can set that tone a little bit lower. So what I want to do is, for example, over here in the toe, and like I don't know what the shoulder actually does. It doesn't look like it does anything. And the slope is also the overall darkness. So with the toe, right now everything is, as you can see, quite dark. So I'm just going to make this a little bit lighter to 0.3 probably. And this will just overall give our scene a little bit more of a realistic scene. So as you can see, it already everything starts to feel a little bit more realistic like this. And there's still a bunch of stuff that we will change, of course, especially our materials and another lighting pass. So the ambient cube map, see that as like a cube map that we have in Marmoset, but we don't need it because we have our own cube maps, which are those balls over here. The ambient occlusion is a nice one. So for the ambient occlusion, we can actually set another layer of ambient occlusion that is screen space, as you can see. So we can just, for example, set our radius. So I want to set our radius to maybe like 100, which will be 100 millimeters, I think it was, or something. And then I'm just going to set the intensity a little bit lower to 0.5. And that will just give some nice soft ambient occlusion, maybe 0.6. And if we then set our radius, yeah, it works better if you look at it closer. Yes, let's keep our radius at 100, 0.6. Let's do 0.7. Yeah, okay, let's do 0.7. That's like a nice radius. Okay, so the next one is our global illumination. And our global illumination is also a really good one. With this, global illumination is basically the bounce that we get from our lighting. So if we set this higher, you can see that the light strength, the bounce strength of our light goes a lot higher. While if we set it lower, now it's all the way 0. And now you can see that the light doesn't bounce around at all, and it just doesn't show up. So we want to go for probably, well, it was set to 1, which actually is quite nice. But then what we can also do is we can give it like some coloring. And if we have a look at like a reference, you can see that everything is very, when there is like a yellow light, everything feels quite orange. Also over here, it's like a little bit of a yellowish tone. And that's something I want to capture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go first fill on orange like this. And then I'm just going to tone down my first slider and just give it like a little bit of a yellowish tint like this. And I'm just going to press OK. And yeah, let's leave our intensity just to 1. That should be fine. Motion blur is if you move your camera around, it will give you a little bit of a blur. But we don't need it because we are not going to play in our level. Light propagation volume. It has something to do with one of these volumes, but I actually never use it, so I'm not completely sure. Screen space reflections. For this one, I just like to set the quality to 100. and the max roughness to 100. This is just like if you see these reflections and something will be in front of the reflections, it's like see it as like real-time reflections. I think that's like one of the best ways to describe it. And I think that is about it. So yeah, we don't need anything in the misc section. So having that done, as you can see, that quite quickly changed up our scene. Now there are a bunch of stuff we still need to fix, like our over here our fog and everything. It's bleeding through everything, so that's something we need to fix. But first one that I want to fix is I want to get some light out of here. And the way that we can do that is we can go ahead and go in and grab a rectangle light over here to kind of like fake it. So let's just drag this rectangle light in here. And as you can see, it's rotated the wrong side. By the way, press G so that we can actually see it. So first of all, let's turn on our snap rotate and just rotate this 180 degrees and just move this in front of here. By the way, what the hell is going on there? That is looking really weird. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Is it doing that everywhere? Yes, it is. Okay, we need to figure that out. Maybe it's just a wrong UV or something. Anyway, having this light blocking volume, now what we can do is we can go up here. And first of all, we just want to set the scale. So we can just click and drag to set like the width. And for the width, it's we might be able to just move this right. Yeah, moving it right in front of our window will create shadows. So might be best if we just turn off the cast shadows. But what it does then is it completely ignores any walls or anything. And that's like a bad thing. So I'm just going to give it to cast shadows, and I'm just going to move this right in front of this, right in front of our curtains, and just move it up and just give it like, this will just give it like a general look. So let's do something like this. And monsieur, can we move it right in front of our curtains? How does that look? I think that I feel like that blows everything out a little bit too much, don't you think? Yeah, I think it does. So let's just move this in front of it, and then we might just later on again fake this, but we'll see how that light bounce goes. So having this, we have our radius, which you can see with like the over here, our blue line. So I'm going to set it around this far, and the reason is because I expect like the GI to bounce all the way over here and light up the rest. Now for the intensity, I'm gonna go for something like 5 or maybe even 3 to start with, and we will also again increase it. Nice thing about this is we will also get like some nice reflections in here, and we might even also put these lights on here. Even though we have like our already sunlight, it might just add a little bit extra. So I'm going to set the light color again to like film orange like this, and then lower it down until it's like a little bit of like a yellowish color, something like this. And I think we want to, yeah, so let's leave the shadows on here, because it will give us a little bit of an interesting look here, that there is light coming from here. I know it might not be as accurate, but yeah, with lighting, sometimes it just looks a little bit nicer if it's not completely accurate. Anyway, having that done, I'm going to just move these ones also over here and in here. And for these, I might just want to turn off the shadow casting, because over, yeah, I'm not sure. We can do the shadow casting, because of course our sunlight is only casting on here. It's not casting like our bounces. So it might be nice to just keep the shadow casting on, because look at the difference between with some shadow casting and without. It definitely adds something. So I'm just going to leave that on and move those in front of here. And here we get a problem that I'm quite familiar with, unfortunately. So at one point Unreal will say that there are too many lights overlapping. So because all these lights are overlapping with shadows, it just doesn't like it. Now there are two things you can do, or you can turn off your shadows, that will fix it. But of course we don't want to do that in this case. Or you can change the radius. So in these ones, these two, because they are quite flat, and with that I mean like there's not much going on, what I might do is I might actually turn off the shadows for these two. Or maybe only for this one. Let's see. Here we get now some nice reflections also from our ceiling. I'm just having a look and see. Okay, so this one is still affecting some shadows. So only for this one I will probably turn off the shadows, because you can see that it's not really doing anything. Maybe a tiny bit here, but that's about it. Also over here, see our floor is now starting to look quite nice and shiny. So that's another thing that it's nice to capture. So doing that should fix those two. And over here we will just, well, for these ones we might want to make this a little bit more yellow. And it's just a matter of baking to see how everything is working. And yeah, I think that's a good thing to do now. And then we might need to fake some lighting in here just to like make it a little bit more dense. But things are starting to look up. And of course we will later on start balancing all of our over here, all of our models and everything. So I'm just going to press bake and I will pause the video until that's done. Okay, so here we go. So as you can see, especially here, this lighting. Oh no, wait, it did not get as far. That's quite unfortunate. Let's have a look, why not? I think we'll just have to go ahead and just increase the radius. I think it's the easiest way to do this. We can like mess around with like the bounce strength and everything, but just doing this probably works a little bit easier. So yeah, here we have like some nice, and I can see now also that everything is really shiny. So that's something we also need to work on. I like things in this scene to be a bit shiny, but that's a bit over the top. Why are you complaining? I already turned off my shadows for this one. I'm not sure why this one is complaining. But anyway, for the rest, we are starting to get some nice shadows. In here, we might want to do just some tiny bit of fake lighting. And we can do that by just placing like a point light, like this. And let's also give this one a little bit more of like an orange look. And we just want to set this on like a very low intensity, like 1. And also just set the radius to be just... That's weird. When we go closer, by the way, turn off shadows. Let's set the radius that it only picks like up like for the radius that we want, but don't go too small because else you can see the shadows quite clear. But for something like this, it will not go through the wall. And then if we set the intensity maybe to even 0.5, it will just give that extra bit of lighting. 0.7. There we go. So that will later on clear up those shadows. The same over here. It will just clear up some of those really strong shadows that we have. And by the way, if we want, we can actually also do that over here. And well, for this one, it's a little bit more tricky because you can see it very easily. So that's why I kind of want to avoid it, especially because this room, yeah, we would normally light it better if something was going to happen. So, but it's dark here. So let's just set the intensity to 0.2 and let's just leave it to that. And for the rest, it should be fine. Still don't know why this one is complaining, because we already over here, we have already lowered the attention radius. So we can just lower it a bit more even. Oh wait, it's this one. This one is also with the shadows. So let's just turn the shadows off for this one. Okay, I'm just building the reflection captures just to get our new reflections and everything. And I think... yeah, I think that's looking good. I quite like how everything's working right now with the lighting for like the very first pass. So I'm going to save my scene. And I think by this point, the first thing that we want to do is we want to start balancing some materials. Now, to do this, there are two ways that we are going to do this. For something as simple as gold. Oh yeah, and we also need to fix the height maps, by the way. Let's do that first. Let's fix the height maps first. So we had this one, right? Yes, we had this one. If we just go ahead and press this little question mark, we can find it in here. And this was, the height was messing up the gold, as we can see. So what we need to do for this is we actually need to go back into let's do this in Marmoset to test it out quickly. But remember that we had some problems with the height map, so we just need to fix those. So I think that's a good thing for the next chapter. In the next chapter we will start balancing all our materials, which will take a while. But after that's done, we might also do some polishing, and then we will keep working on our lighting. Yeah, stuff like the bed over here, it's starting to look quite nice with all the winkles and having everything on here. We might make it a little bit more, the texture tiling a little bit more, but and over here this is almost pitch black. So what I'm going to do is one more lighting, build lighting I mean. Okay, so I baked the lighting. Now you can see over here everything is a bit more lighter. Also over here it's a little bit too much, so I'm just going to set our intensity to 0.1. But yeah, for the rest you can see that now our scene just has some proper light everywhere. Now one last thing I want to show before we move on, what you can do if you make your view a bit bigger, is we can actually have like a special camera that we can preview. So let's say we want to have like, let's press G. Let's have like a main view, for example. We would just want to have like a nice main view. So let's say that something like this would be our main view. Now I look at it, things feel a little bit too white, but we'll do some color grading and make everything feel a bit warmer. But let's say something like this. Now what you can do is you can go down here and you click on create camera here. And once you've done that, if you go into perspective and turn on camera actor 1, we will get our camera over here. Nice thing of this is, and you can do this with your main camera, but in here we can change our field of view. So we can make a field of view very big or very small. So if you want to make the room look or feel very big, you can do that, or very small. So I'm going to try and set this to, let's give something like 70. Let's do 65, just to make everything feel a little bit more cozier, especially like down here. It will make everything feel quite a bit more cozy. So let's do 65, and then the aspect ratio, what you can do is you can move, if you make that bigger to like around 2, or let's do 2.5. This is just for my own preferences. We will not use this, but this will give you like these black bars, which will give you like a little bit more of a cinematic feel to it if you want it. So, but of course if you just want a fill view, you can do this. You often see that in games, that when they go from a cutscene to normal, you see like this moving. So in our case, let's do 2.3, and there you go. So that will just give you like a little bit of a nice effect. So the next thing that we will do is in next chapter we will balance our light, we will balance our materials, fix our height maps, and then we will do another lighting pass. So let's save and let's move on.